Yeah, so we'll play it a little bit by ear to make sure that the proponent is on the screen before we go into that process, obviously, because we're doing this for a lot of reasons, including for the proponent to be aware of the hearing. We're in. Okay. There we go. Oh, they are in. Okay, that's quick. Okay, so we're good. So adoption of the agenda, any errors or omissions? Oh, no, we didn't actually move the agenda with late items, or did we? Okay, mover and a seconder on the agenda with the changes. Moved by Councillor McKenzie, seconded by Councillor Taylor. All those in favor, thank you. Ministerial Order M192. There's recommendation that pursuant to Ministerial Order number M192, the District of Clearwater is excluding in-person public attendance at this June 15, 2021 regular council meeting on the basis that full public attendance in a matter consistent with public health orders and recommendations cannot be accommodated at this time. And the district is ensuring openness, transparency, accessibility, and accountability at this meeting by the following means. This meeting will be recorded and a video of this meeting will be available on the district's website for viewing on an on-demand basis. And we don't have to move our second to that, we'll just have to state that. Adoption of the minutes, are there any errors or omissions to the minutes? Seeing none, can I get a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Frizzle, seconded by Councillor McKenzie. Thank you, all those in favor. And that goes forward. And I see that we have Ursula and company. Oh, there we go. Alex is there, I think. So we're going to go ahead with your presentation, if that's okay, if you're ready to go from your end. Can you hear us? Can you?
Yes, we're just going to do the screen share here now.
Okay, just give us a second. Technology is so fast.
Okay, that should be working. Can everyone hear me okay? So thank you, Mayor and Council. Alex and I will both run through our presentation. Please note that this presentation did have some modifications from the PowerPoint that was posted on the agenda just to provide some more clarity. So this is for application rezoning 2103 submitted by property owner Doug Borrow, who is also the applicant and developer for the proposal. The proposal involves 2 parcels on Park Drive, which have a combined area of about 54 acres. The western lot, subject site 2, is separated into 2 pieces, with the smaller piece separated from the larger piece by the school district property. So the proposed rezoning is required in order to enable the proposed subdivision of 84 lots. So we wish to emphasize that this plan is conceptual and it's provided to help demonstrate the overall layout and lot numbers, but the developer is not restricted to this exact plan, and it may change through the process and at subdivision stage. Part of this rezoning proposal involved parkland dedication. So under the legislation, the developer is required to provide parkland dedication, which is 5% of the land or cash in lieu. And parkland dedication was negotiated through this rezoning process. And the Trails Master Plan from 2016 was looked at through this rezoning. So on the next slide here, you can see that there's 2 proposed trails running through the parcels, Trail 7K and 7J. Trail 7K, which is the lower trail, is in line with the Trans Mountain Pipeline. So this portion has been negotiated for parkland dedication that was also supported by Trans Mountain. And so that will become a district-owned lot, which will be that linear shape for trail use. And proposed Trail 7J up at the top will be a road through the subdivision that will ensure future access and connectivity with the high school, and it would tie into the overall trail network that's existing in the Park Drive area. So the parcels are surrounded by numerous amenities, including the high school, parks, the North Thompson Sportsplex, and the hospital. There are single-family residences to the south and east of the properties, and commercial uses exist across the highway to the north. The parcels are overall flat and they are not impacted by any water courses nor steep slopes. However, as mentioned, there is a trans mountain pipeline running through the parcels that is about 18 meters wide. So this next slide shows a few site photos, just to give some context. Both of the lots are currently vacant and treed. The top two photos are taken from Park Drive and the bottom two are taken from Highway 5. So in the official community plan, both of the lots are designated as urban residential. And this rezoning proposal is consistent with several OCP policies and objectives, including that this area is envisioned for higher densification because there is existing district water and sewer available to the properties. And the OCP also acknowledges that new residential development should be directed to areas designated urban residential. And these properties specifically in the OCP are recognized where residential density is encouraged. So as part of this rezoning, there is a proposed change to the OCP, but it's restricted to the trail portion. So basically, all of the properties will remain designated urban residential, except the linear portion is proposed to be redesignated to park, just to make it very clear that that's what the future intended use of that portion will be. And OCP amendments under the Local Government Act require that council consider additional public consultation, but because the OCP amendment is restricted to the linear portion for park, staff do not recommend additional public consultation other than the legally required public hearing. So for the zoning, both of the parcels are zoned RL1 rural, and the owner wishes to rezone both parcels to R1, residential, single family, and duplex to enable a subdivision of 84 lots. So on this next slide, again, the linear portion that's designated for trail would be proposed to be rezoned to P1, Parks and Recreation, and the rest would be rezoned to R1, residential, single family, and duplex. And in addition to that, as a way to encourage more density, staff has also included a site-specific amendment to allow suites within duplexes called duplex suites on these subject sites only. And I will let Alex describe that further and finish the presentation as well.
Right, thank you. So as Ursula had said, the OCP encourages more housing types and density at this location. And we also know there's a shortage of available housing stock and lack of rental options, which was noted in the housing needs report. And so what's proposed here is a new definition and permitted use of duplex suite, and it would apply to the subject property. Basically, the background is that in 2019, the BC Building Code was changed province-wide, and it's to enable secondary suites in duplex units. So a duplex can now have a secondary suite on each side, which was never allowed under building code previously. So that change has allowed local governments to amend their bylaws if they so choose to allow this added use. So the proposed definition and use that's included in this bylaw will only apply to this development, but that definition will remain in the bylaw if adopted by council. And then other developments can also rezone to add that use in the future. So the intent of this is really to provide flexibility and housing options under zoning. And related to this question of housing affordability, which is top of mind, is also servicing, and the two are very much related. So as Ursula said, the OCP planning policy supports the proposed density at this location, and residential development was envisioned at this location since the OCP was adopted in 2013. And the proposed R1 zoning would allow single family dwelling, single family with suites, duplex units, and it would even allow duplex units with suites. So it allows a range of housing type, but the actual density and the specific housing types that will be developed will really depend on servicing. And so their servicing constraints, for example, the need to achieve fire flow may impact the actual density that will be created there. So the developer will have to connect to the water and sewer system and ensure capacity and ensure fire flow for the proposed number of lots and the proposed number of homes. And so should the rezoning be approved, the developer will then have to apply for a subdivision. And it's during this technical subdivision process that the developer will be required to connect to the municipal water and sewer system and ensure fire flow for all the lots. If the systems can't handle the extra density, say from the added suites or a number of lots, then there could be limits that have to be imposed via covenant at time of subdivision. So basically, servicing capacity has a direct link to density, but the zoning that's proposed, the R1 zoning, and this added duplex suite use will enable the developer to have this range of housing type, but it's really servicing challenges and the decision of the developer, which will impact or decide the number of lots and the specific types of housing that'll be built on each home. So again, just to go back to the conceptual site plan here, this is conceptual. If the rezoning is approved, that doesn't mean that this will be the layout that's approved. That can still be adjusted, and there will still need to be some fine tuning when the actual road design comes in and the water and sewer layout comes in. So the way council should look at it is that this is a rezoning for R1. That means a density of as small as 700 square meter lots. It's about 7,500 square feet. The developer is proposing about a half acre, 2,000 square meter size lots. So they're going larger than the minimum. But it's important to not look so much at what the developer is exactly proposing at this time, but rather to look at the proposed zoning and whether or not that density and that range of housing type is appropriate at this location. Later, it might be fine-tuned. It might be 84 lots. The developer might choose to do less. There might be more. Some may have suites, some may not. The zoning will enable all of those things, but whether it's actually developed, again, will depend on servicing and somewhat on the developer, who has a lot of cost that they have to cover to upgrade the water system, upgrade the sewer system, and so on. So we'll leave the presentation there and take any questions. Staff are recommending first and second reading of the proposed bylaws today, and then proceeding to a public hearing from there. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Excellent presentation. Any questions for Ursula and Alex on this from council? Seeing no, oh yeah, Councillor Sim.
Thank you very much. I wondered, because you said that it is conceptual, what is the zoning for low-rise apartment buildings? And would that ever be a consideration given some of the possible bumps that might present themselves?
Yeah, so multifamily would be R3 zoning. The OCP would absolutely support that zoning as well. But the developer in this case has not requested that. They're not really wanting to do that housing type. So they're specifically asking for R1 to be able to do single family with suite, duplex potentially. And again, this added concept of a duplex with suites, which borders on multifamily.
Thank you very much. And a supplemental question to that would be, in the event if they go down the road and they find that this design isn't workable, how difficult is it to go from an R1 to an R3?
The developer would just have to apply again, go through this process again. It does require another public hearing. But in terms of official community plan policy, it would be supported, but it still has to go through the public process and council would have to make the decision.
Okay, thank you.
Anything further? If not, there are several recommendations on the table. First is that the official community plan bylaw number 252, 2021 be introduced and read for first time by title only. What is the desire of council? So moved by Councillor Herring. Seconded. Discussion. Seeing none. So by title only. Sorry, haven't done this for a while. Okay, that's what I thought. Just the wording. District of Clearwater bylaw number 252, a bylaw to amend the District of Clearwater official community plan adoption bylaw number 93. Whereas District of Clearwater Council has adopted the Clearwater official community plan adoption bylaw number 93, 2012. And whereas the Council of the District of Clearwater deems it desirable to adopt an amendment to the Clearwater official community plan bylaw number 93, 2012. And whereas the amendment is considered within or with the region's regional growth strategy and waste management plan, and the amendment does not affect the district's financial plan. Now, therefore, the Council of the District of Clearwater in open meeting assembled enacts as follows. This bylaw may be cited as District of Clearwater official community plan adoption bylaw number 93, amendment bylaw number 252, 2021. All those in favor? Okay, that passes. And then the second recommendation that the official community plan bylaw number 252 be read a second time and taken to a public hearing in conjunction with a regular council meeting. What is the desire of council? Which is basically just a different way of saying second read. Moved by Councillor Frizzle, seconded by Councillor Sim. District of Clearwater bylaw number 252, 2019, a bylaw to amend District of Clearwater official community plan adoption bylaw number 93. Whereas District of Clearwater Council has adopted the Clearwater official community plan adoption bylaw number 93, 2012. And whereas the Council of the District of Clearwater deemed it desirable to adopt an amendment to the Clearwater official community plan bylaw number 93, 2012. And whereas the amendment is consistent with the region's regional growth strategy and waste management plan, and the amendment does not affect the district's financial plan. Now, therefore, the Council of the District of Clearwater in an open meeting assembles and acts as follows. This bylaw may be cited as District of Clearwater official community plan adoption bylaw number 93, amendment bylaw number 252, 2021. All those in favor? And that passes. And that goes off to public hearing in conjunction with a council meeting in the future. So then the next two are in relation to bylaw number 253. I'll let everybody catch up on that because I have to catch up on that. That the zoning amendment bylaw number 253 be introduced and read for a first time. So this is the next phase of this. What is the wish of council?
So, sorry, which page are we on now?
So we're now on page 267. Sorry,
Thank
I'll
you.
I'll let you dig for a second.
267? Sorry.
267.
Mine, okay. My. Okay, 225 is mine.
220. Okay, so yeah, okay, yeah, you're all going okay. So absorb that for a half second. But basically, this is the zoning part of it, talking about, and I really, not too much of a comment, but I love the idea that you can have a secondary suite in a duplex, and that we're the one thing we're really short of in this town is secondary. I would, the carriage house idea is great, but legal secondary suites. Big fan. Okay, so now you have it in your hands. What is the wish of council on this one? So moved by Councillor Herring, seconded by Councillor Taylor. District of Clearwater bylaw number 253, 2021, a bylaw to amend the District of Clearwater zoning bylaw number 133. Whereas an application number RZ-21-03 for amendment to zoning bylaw number 133 has been made, and whereas the desirable changes in uses of land have been considered, and whereas the zoning amendment conforms to the District of Clearwater official community plan. Now, therefore, the Council of the District of Clearwater in open meeting assembles and acts as follows. This bylaw may be cited as District of Clearwater zoning bylaw number 133, amendment bylaw number 253, 2021. All those in favor? That passes. And then a recommendation 4, that this zoning bylaw 253 be read a second time and taken to a public hearing in conjunction with a regular council meeting. So moved by Councillor Taylor, seconded by Councillor McKenzie. District of Clearwater bylaw number 253, 2021, a bylaw to amend the District of Clearwater zoning bylaw number 133. Whereas an application number RZ-21-03 for amendment to zoning bylaw number 133 has been made, and whereas the desired changes in uses of land has been considered or have been considered, and whereas the zoning amendment conforms to the District of Clearwater official community plan. Now, therefore, the Council of the District of Clearwater in an open meeting assembles and acts as follows. This bylaw may be cited as the District of Clearwater zoning bylaw number 133, amendment bylaw number 253, 2021. All those in favor? And that goes off to public hearing. Thank you for your reports online there. Excellent work.
Thank you.
And we're going to go back to the regular scheduled council meeting, and we just did something interesting there. It changed how housing can be done in Clearwater. That's great. Yay. And hopefully this all goes forward smoothly. Knock on wood. Moving back to the agenda, we'll go back to item 9A.5 B now, which is the 2020 corporate annual report. And we need a minute to get set up on that. Everybody grab a glass of water and half a second break while we get all set up on that one.
What's a slideshow?
Just working through the technical difficulties for those online there. Just half a second. Welcome to the Zoom area. We'll figure it out sometime once we have to go away from Zoom.
So good afternoon, your worship and members of council. This will be the last annual report that I'll present to you. So it's kind of exciting and it's kind of challenging at the same time. So you have before you, the annual report was provided in your boxes, and then I'll go through a quick presentation on just the highlights of the year. So the purpose of an annual report, it's required under the community charter. So section 98 addresses how the district or a municipality is supposed to handle their annual report. It's to be available to the public before June 30th, which we have had, and we've advertised in the newspaper for the last 2 weeks that it would be on today's agenda. The annual report is to provide information to the public on your last year, the snapshot of progress made by the district during the year covering 2020, January to December. And then it also follows up on the 2018-22 strategic priorities the council did, progress, and then plans. So you'll note in the report itself, it'll say accomplishments, and then it'll say 2021 plans. And it also includes the 2020 financial statements and statistical data for the district's finances. Services that the District of Clearwater provide are administration, finance, bylaw enforcement, cemetery, development services, economic development, emergency management, fire protection, ICBC motor vehicle appointed agent, parks and recreation and healthy living, public works, water, sewer, and other utilities, roads, street lighting, and transit services. And I just wanted to comment that not all municipalities, especially the size of the District of Clearwater, offer all these services. It is under the community charter, part 2, division 1, section 6, where it outlines what municipal powers and purposes are. The council sitting before us today is the elected officials, which were elected in 2018, and The new election will be November 2022, so you still have a bit of time ahead of you, and you've done some great work and still have time to finish off your strategic priorities. Primarily in 2020, we operated under public health orders, which meant that we weren't open to the public. However, I'd point out that you held 7 public hearings, 22 council meetings, 51 committee meetings, so that's commissions and committee, and that's District of Clearwater only, community engagements ×2. We do have a junior council. Last year, unfortunately, due to COVID, we weren't unable to meet with the junior council, so we're hoping to restart in September 2021. District does sponsor events. In the past, we've sponsored the Winterfest, Canada Day, First Fish Ceremony, and Raft River School Program in partnership with the Símpcwemc First Nations, and then the Love Where You Live Bonspiel. We also held a Harvest Fest the year before last, and we used to do the canoe regatta. Last year, we were only able to do the Winterfest, and then COVID restricted the rest of it. Your 2020 strategic focus areas are economic development, infrastructure, asset management, and financial management. Council has got overarching focus areas that are important, which are maintaining a strong organization while working towards climate adaptation. Under economic development, the goals have been listed. They do interchange with planning and development. Based on community survey in 2019, we updated the 2018 to 2022 strategic plan. And we went from 7 focus areas to 5. We also have made sure that this year with the March 2021 community survey, that our strategic priorities still align with the citizens have asked for. On the infrastructure asset management, I'd like to point out that under addressing infrastructure needs gaps and to reduce risks, i.e. the flats, Council this year has in 2021 initiated a sewer expansion feasibility study for the Strawberry Flats area. And financial management. This year, I'd be proud to say that the District of Clearwater has worked towards achieving a reasonably financial stability in terms of we do have some money in the bank, so we're not in the same position as some communities are, which has helped with our COVID, going into another year of COVID. The next strategic focus areas is housing and healthy communities. Under housing, we have been working with BC Housing, local nonprofit developers, and the ministry responsible for housing and healthy communities. Our healthy living coordinator has worked extremely diligently to keep that program running in the face of all the closures that we've had. We've still been able to offer good programs to our citizens. So council advocacy. Last year, council at the ministerial level advocated for broadband cell service, forced renewal initiatives post CAN4 shutdown, tourism funding, affordable housing, economic recovery measures under COVID-19, the Clearwater River Road rebuild, initiated a community economic development task force, and continued with the physician retention program. Under administration, we've got, we were able to negotiate a 4-year QP collective agreement, adopt 2 district policies. We adopted 15 bylaws last year, continue to enhance our communication and to the public, and internally. Alternative approval process was complete for cell 1, and later you'll see a loan authorization bylaw was done through finance. Posted a community forum in January before COVID hit. Updated the CAO corporate management plan, updated the 2018-2022 council strategic priorities. It's important. It's interesting to highlight that there were 1,712 Facebook followers last year. There were set on the average Facebook posts, we saw 789 followers. Council meeting documents that are posted on iCompass, there were 6,251 views. And then website visits, we had 29,189. So we know, or we believe our communication strategy does work. Under finance, Roxanne Shepherd is the Director of Finance. Last year, Tammy Rutsat has been with either the Improvement District or the District of Clearwater for 15 years. So we celebrated her 15-year service. Finance program adopted 2025 year financial plan, adopted the 2020 tax rate bylaw, adopted the Cell 1 loan authorization bylaw, set up vendors for direct payment. And for grant reporting, so grants aren't necessarily written by the finance department, but they get the heavy work lifting, doing all the reporting. So total grant reporting for 2020 was $3.13 million. Wells Grey Community Forest Commission also is done under the finance department reporting. $903,778 was granted out. Grant and aid program was dispersed $3,100. Private contributions it was actually over probably about 4.2 million by the time all was said and done, even though our agreement was 3.1 million with Trans Mountain. And then total permissive tax exemptions, the municipal portion was 33,746. Out of the 1,380 residential properties that we have, 807 claimed their homeowner grants. Finance and also manages the motor vehicle ICBC. So there was 3,768 ICBC documents done last year and 2,144 motor vehicle documents. And this is on par with the years before. So nothing slowed down is what I'm getting at. Under economic development, there was the appointment of the Community Economic Development Task Force, complete to the Community Economic Development Strategy, and it was adopted by Council in January 2021. Advocated for reclamations of the Canfor lands. Retail stores that opened among probably other small ones as well, but the key ones were Bosley's, Subway, and Hardy's Clothing. Broadband cell service for Raft River is seeing an upgrade through a lot of hard work, and Sunshine Valley did see some upgrades through Mascon. Economic impact assessment of Clearwater River Road was completed. Executed the community resiliency grant and hosted value-added forest utilization workshop. Advocated for timber supply apportionment for the North Thompson. We saw 31 investment inquiries last year, 17 assisted in business opportunities, 23 general inquiries on various different business opportunities in the community, and then there was 202 business licenses issued last year. Under the Trails Task Force, we completed the multi-use path along Windhaven, Clearwater Valley, and the accessibility trail for Dutch Lake Beach. That was a $245,000 project. Partnered with that was the Wells Grey Community Forest, the Rural Dividend Funds, and the District of Clearwater's gas tax. Completed the Eden to Roundabout multi-use pathway, which is paved. That was $36,000. That was partnered with Thompson Tourism Okanagan Association. That was a total of 210 meters, and the Windhaven Clearwater Valley was almost a kilometer. Planning and development, planning grants and grant submission for the Wells Grey into Roundabout multi-use path, which we were not successful on, but the Trails Committee is currently working on submitting another application. They'll come to council asking to do it through active transportation. Grant submission for tourism development, which was 684,000 total. So that's been approved for the Dutch Lake multi-use path. You'll see built either this year or next, and triple decker Clearwater River Trail upgrades. I'd also like to comment that the Trails Task Force Committee worked very hard with the Minister of Transportation on the pedestrian crossing that you see on Highway 5 today. So that's a great accomplishment. And then finalized the concept for Park Drive and Raft River multi-use pathway. Did public consultation the year before. Under facilities, which is managed by Roger Mayer, the Sportsplex constructed a chip storage for both the Dutch Lake Community Center and the Sportsplex chips. New curling scoreboards, that was done in partnership with the high school shop group. Paved the extension of the site for the sidewalk from the sidewalk through to the front of the Sportsplex. Centennial Hall had a rebuild of its entryway and then repaired the heating system. And the Dutch Lake Community Center secured a long-term chip supply, rebuilt the gym accessibility entry, only to see fire destroy the chip soil in the gym roof. Install energy efficient lighting and construct concrete exit steps around the backside of the building. Under planning and development services, which we contract to the regional district, and the CAO currently manages the file. We saw an amendment to our zoning bylaw for bees and animal control. We completed a housing needs assessment that was adopted in early January. The official community plan had minor amendments to it. And then under the development files, last year, development permits, we had 3 completed. Development varied permit, we had no applications. Subdivisions, we had 3 completed. The official community plan amendment 1, rezoning applications 3, agricultural land application 0, liquor license 1, cannabis license 1. And I'd like to highlight that 2021 to date, we've already completed a development permit. We are in the process of completing a development variance permit. 4 subdivision applications are on file at this moment. 1 OCP amendment and 5 rezoning applications are on file at this moment. 1 agricultural land reserve application and no liquor or cannabis license. So it's going to be a busy year. This has all been what council's been building towards the last few years. Again, planning and development services last year, our building permits, we saw 37 permits for a value of 2.8 million. So far to date, as of the end of May this year, 2021, we have 9 building permits to the value of $3.68 million. So that's an 87% increase in building permit values. Bosley's was, of course, an exciting thing that's opened last year. And then you have before you the chart of the development application activity since 2008 when we incorporated. Development cost charges is a bylaw that the council put in 2014. This helps collect money to offset costs related to an increase in the demand for various services that are incurred as a direct result of new development. In 2020, we collected 8,700 in water DCCs, 2,200 in sewer, 8,600 in roads, 1,400 in parks for a total of 21,000. We spent 73,749 under sewer for the cell 1 upgrades, and we incurred $2,000 in interest on our money that's sitting in the bank. So most projects in our development cost charge bylaw that we currently have been completed in 6 years. That's based on grants, private contribution, and using development cost charges. That's pretty phenomenal. Usually they're 10-year program. Bylaw enforcement, the fire chief is assigned to bylaw enforcement. You'll see that the last year we responded to 12 bylaw complaints. 2 were unsightly, 2 were land use, 3 were for dogs, 3 were for noise, and 2 were for other. Issued 3 municipal tickets, haven't collected money for any of them. Completed 1 remedial action order, had about 20 plus COVID-19 complaints. Bylaw enforcement completed his Justice Institute level 2 bylaw course, and then we renewed the annual animal control officer contract for a 2-year term. Under fire protection, which is Mr. Smith again, they did continue doing fire prevention week activities on virtually. Purchase a wildland trailer and equipment through a grant program. Purchase 4 sets of turnout gear. Education, prevention, and public relations events continued through social media. And then celebrated long service and retirement. So Dan Dossey, 20 years of long service. Tom Meelan, 29 years retired, and he retired last year. Mike Chambers celebrated 30 years service, and Jan Westenshoff, 35 years of service and retirement. And they saw 54 call-outs. Under public works for water, source to top protection plan was completed. And this was under Mr. Bazima, who's and then cleaned intake screen for Russell Creek. Bridge install at Russell Creek, repaired the UV spool system because it was rusting. New water line Musgrave Road to Eco Depot, that was 830 meters. That was the Trans Mountain funding. New water line well 3 from Harvey Road. That was 1,100 meters, and that was Trans Mountain funding. And as part of the Trans Mountain funding, they upgraded the pressure reducing valve at Harvey Road. There was 180 service requests last year of varying types. Public Works Sewer and the SRS, so sewer, the new cell 1 was constructed. New rapid infiltration basin was completed through the Trans Mountain funding. Major maintenance to the sewer aeration blower. Fencing around 3 lift stations, flushing sanitary sewer. New sewer, or SRS, it should say drop-off lagoon, which is paid for by Trans Mountain. Headworks for the sewer system that was under the cell 1 grant, and 2 lift station pumps were purchased. And then for the septic receiving system, we installed a water meter and moved the shower and a water line within the building. Roads, rubblized Dunn Lake Road, about 2.7 kilometers of it. Adopted a road maintenance strategy, did ditching at the Greer subdivision, asphalt install Musgrave to 100-mile Forest Service road paid for by Trans Mountain. Assessment of the Brookfield Bridge, and then speed limit was changed in the Miller subdivision. We have 69 kilometers of road. I think that's important for the public to understand. Community parks, I'm almost finished. Danger tree removal, grounds remediation at Dutch Lake, installation of dry well at Dutch Lake Beach parking lot, installation of water bottle fillers in community parks. That was made possible by Junior Council. Installation of flag poles at Wellsbury or Warehouser Pioneer Park, and kept parks open through COVID, which not all communities did. Community recreation, healthy living. There was 7 new programs introduced last year. Free child minding. COVID, during COVID, we did free live streaming, which was sponsored by the district and United Way. Part of that program was 5, 6 to 8 week programs that were run that were anywhere from, yoga to inspirational talks to Tabata. Then we had 10 one-off sessions that were education pieces on health and wellness, seed saving and all kinds of things. 2020 Outdoor Adventure Camp was run, sponsored by the Wellsbury Community Forest. And then we offered outdoor low intensity sessions in limited numbers. Under Transit, which is managed by Roxanne Shepherd, the Director of Finance. And this isn't a reflection on her, it is a reflection on COVID, is we saw a decrease last year of 38% in our ridership. So we went from 2384 in 2019 to 1468. District strategic priorities, which we have to report for 2021 under economic development. We're looking to adopt the community, or we did, sorry, actually 2021 already, but adopted the community economic development strategy, approved the implementation plan, and there's a plan to secure an economic development officer potentially. There is funding for that of 60,000. Broadband cell advocacy will continue. Deepen the government to government relationships with the Simpcwemc First Nations. Advocate reclamation on Canfor lands. Tomorrow night, the economic task force will meet with Brian Fair. Continue to purchase or to pursue funds for food security agriculture plan. Under infrastructure and asset management, water conservation, review water metering, cemetery bylaws, sewer expansion to Harvey and Dutch Lake area, which is an $8.3 million grant that we're hoping for. Upgrades and repaving to sections of Dunn Lake Road, Sunshine Valley Road, and many other roads in this area. About $838,000 this year council is putting into roads. Some of that is private contribution from Trans Mountain. Oops. Almost last but not least, financial management is a long-term financial plan for asset management, reviewing the tax revitalization bylaw. Under healthy communities, review the healthy living program, multi-use pathways, Dutch Lake, triple decker, and Park Drive. And then housing would be work with the stakeholders to initiate housing starts, advocate for affordable housing units, and then lobby for provincial government to amend the building code. That's all in your strategic priorities. Thank you very much. And I'd have to say that the 2020 accomplishments were made possible by the contributions of a progressive council. Thank you. Dedicated staff. Thank you. Our funding partners, community stakeholders, and incredible volunteers. Thank you.
Questions on the ginormous volume of work and accomplishment encapsulated in this relatively thick binder. Wow. Holy crow. No, Councillor Sim first and anybody else. So. Comments from anyone else? Councillor Taylor, go ahead.
Yeah, so I was just, I mean, I know you acknowledged at the beginning, Leslie, that this, sorry, Ms. Grew, that this is a requirement to provide an annual report, but I think it's a really great way to reflect back. And I think it's important that we take the time to do that. And I love how it's presented too. Like, it's so professional and yeah, it's beautiful. And I love, I know you might not love it as much as I love it, but I love the tribute at the back with all the photos of Leslie's 13 years with us. So yeah, thank you for putting the work into to do the work, but also to kind of present this annual report back. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Further questions or comments? Yeah, control is a little bit of an issue here. No, and absolutely. I think if you stacked all these on top of each other in the 13 years that Ms. Crew has been part of this organization, and even just the time it's being CEO, it's quite an impressive legacy. And yes, it takes a team to do all this stuff. But in comparison to other towns that have similar teams and other CAOs, this is really impressive. And we hear that everywhere we go. And I think Ms. Crew's legacy in Clearwater, it's not just between these pages, it's everywhere out there on the streets and in every corner of this community. And it's really sad as I begin my mayor's report that this is your last council meeting, because I am going to deeply miss Ms. Crew's guidance, professionalism, dedication to this community. And it's going to be an interesting transition moving forward. Don't be surprised if you get some text messages and some pleas for quick coffees here and then in the next 6 months for sure anyways. Yes. And always grateful that staff puts out tissues for some people anyway, so. No, it's amazing for sure. So just the rest of my mayor's reports, and obviously we have the 23rd, we'll have a party to acknowledge all this as well. So on the 3rd, I did a call with Jen Goodwood from Interior Health to discuss how the District of Clearwater and area residents basically broke the IHA booking system with their enthusiasm to get their second doses. Interesting developments at IHA, which you've all followed in the news. On the 4th, I had the mayor's vaccine call. A lot of confusion around the province, but in a lot of ways, being Clearwater and being small has definitely been to our benefit in the rush to get vaccinations. There are a lot of larger towns, 15,000 person towns, which are just now seeing or still expecting their second doses. We're done, except for the stragglers and the cleanup of the second doses for the high school students and everybody else. We, being small, are ahead of the game. So I'm very grateful for that, and very grateful for all the people that came out and volunteered or participated in that clinic. It was incredibly well run, and I'm glad that my understanding on some days there were 15% new people for the first time getting a vaccination. So the message that that you need to get vaccinated definitely got out there, even if they didn't get it the first time, they made the opportunity to participate the second time. On the 7th, I got my second dose, so last Monday, which was great. On the 8th, attended a hospital recruitment meeting, last one with Amy Fain. who's moving on to other things and back to her counseling role. But I believe Councillor Sim has got that position moving forward. Potentially, there you go. So that she'll be the new coordinator for that group. On the 9th, I did agenda setting, as well as had a conversation with Doug Trotter. And if you're not aware, Doug, in conjunction with Wadlayer's team, have put in a new boat launch and kayak staircase where the washout is on the river road. So they've been able to extend access to the river as far as you can get up to the washout. So what it's enabled, my understanding, talking to Doug, they're working on a new model for full day trips using as much of the river as they possibly can, and potentially camping in a new location instead of their past one. So that's good news, and I'm hoping to get that. I got that a little bit on NL. I don't know if they picked it up fully yet, because they talked to me about everything, including I just sent them pictures of our new pedestrian light, because we have an illuminated crossing now in Clearwater. It may not flash red, yellow, and green, but this is like, we're now in the 20th century. So it's big news in the big city, but for sure, congratulations to the tenacity of the rafting companies, especially Doug Trotter and the Wadlayer organization, for getting the best they can out of that. And I think our job as council, talking about a lot of things, including this, the ambulance service, is to continue to advocate for our tourism businesses, our healthcare workers, and all the other people that I've mentioned so far. And my report over the next year to make sure that upper levels of government help them out and follow through on their promises and the things that we need them to do. Moving on to council reports. I do have committee appointments. They're in there. There's a few things there that might have to change. Council Sim is, due to scheduling conflicts, is unable to do the joint services committee. So if somebody else wishes to step forward, that it's the second Monday or the third Monday of second Monday of the month at 10 in the morning. But we'll have to see about that one. So okay, so we'll pencil Bill in there for that one. That'd be great. And the rest of them are there. I think we'll probably be able to go ahead with, we'll talk about junior council at a later date. So anyways, moving on, Councillor Banford is away on medical appointments and personal business. Councillor Frizzle.
I just wanted to,
Sorry.
sorry,
For that. Okay, so recommendation, can I get a mover and a second? Moved, seconded by Councillor Herring. All those in favor, thank you. Councillor Frizzle, back on track.
yeah, I just wanted to sort of repeat the mayor on the vaccinations. My email and phone blew up with the seniors having trouble getting registered and whatnot. So there's a lot of phone calls back and forth getting that all done, but they were there and they wanted their shot. So, and the lineups were every day. So I was really glad to see the community getting themselves vaccinated so we can get back to normal. And because I'm speaking of seniors, I just wanted to let you know that today, June 15th, is World Elder Abuse Awareness Day. So it's important to know that if you or anybody, you know of anybody that's being abused, that's financially, mentally, physically, whatever. There are, Seniors First BC has a 1-800 number where you can phone and they will help you with that situation, which I just did last week, by the way. Passed this number on, and this person was helped immensely, and things may be going forward with him. So it does work, just so you know that. I do want to also thank everybody or whoever did the roads. Sunshine Valley is very happy with the new road. Very happy. People are coming off that road with a smile rather than gritting their teeth. So that's a good thing. And I'm also been helping people with the homeowners grant. There's some people that have been really struggling and just not wanting to. It's very easy to do, but it's still having to go online and people aren't comfortable. So I've been doing several of those and getting people over that hump. So that's my report. Thank you.
For that. Councillor Herring.
Not much to update for me. One thing is I did get a a lot of public feedback about the boat launch issue, just people sending me messages or stopping me to chat about it. And so definitely been hearing lots of that. I think we saw a lot of that reflected on the Facebook page. But that's all I got.
Thank you for that. Yes, our public is very commentary. Councillor Mackenzie.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Blackwell. Not a lot to report this couple of weeks. Did have a Parks and Rec meeting this morning, or sorry, early this afternoon that I'll touch base on a little bit. And the last couple of weeks, a lot of talk with family and friends about our findings in Kamloops lately. There's been a lot of conversation, people reaching out. I've worked with a lot of First Nations from right across Western Canada over the years, and I'm getting phone calls from people up at Fort Nelson to down in Adams Lake, and just friends and family over the years, just kind of reaching out. And I've been reaching out too, just to kind of find out more a little about it, because I kind of feel a little lied to over the years, and I'm in a learning curve myself, so been a lot of conversation about that. Just people that have experienced it or are the sons or daughters of people that experienced it, and it's quite an eye-opening thing, and I think we're just scratching the surface of it. So forward to learning more about this and as we carry on. And that's my report.
Thanks for bringing that up. I think it's critically important to acknowledge that. So thanks for doing that at the table for sure. Councillor Sim.
Thanks for that. Just on the heels of that, important comment is that there is a great book, and it's called 21 Things That You May Not Have Known About the Indian Act. And it's terrific, and it's about this big, and it really helps explain a lot and also reflect on things that are often assumed that aren't true. And I think at some point in time, there will be a reckoning about how the lies created a sense of inbred racism that many of us may not be aware of, and how important it is to start this time as listening. And maybe, this council moving forward, when it's appropriate, we can actually start talking about racism and how we can become anti-racist. Leading up, it's grad season. And I wondered if the grad banner was going up. If anybody remember that nice grad banner? I think it was generic. I don't know, who had that banner? Or
I also noticed the wire seems to be off on the place where you hang the
oh,
grad.
I didn't notice that, yeah. I just thought,
Whoops.
again, without a grad, it would be, nice to put that in. I thought the district was a sponsor of that last year, and I don't know if there's a cost to it, but it would be something that I would be really pleased to support again, going through. I'm assuming they are, and I think there'll probably be details on that. I think yesterday was probably I think there's lots of been changes since yesterday, so probably some happy things, but they are still doing private ceremonies. So I was thinking about it, and I was thinking that last year's grad went to March, but they had been together and they had done things and they had sports. This year's grad had nothing. So if I look at all those families and all those times, if we had known that it was our last band concert with them, and our last, hearing of some of, their works or something in assemblies, I just really feel for them. So it's a tremendous thing. So just want a big shout out to that graduating class. I think that the mayor got a nice little letter from Mrs. Green's grade 2 class. So that was part of Miss Green's gratitude project that she did. And they did 80 letters across the community. And she said it was really quite something to watch, because there had been, a time where, they were getting a bit down. And so they turned their attention to all the things that they could be grateful for. And they worked in groups together, and they ran out of paper. They had to get more, and they just kept writing. So they've been distributed all over. So not only was it an exercise in writing, but just they all of a sudden started to see their community in a very different way. My favorite one, to the polices. So that was another good one. So it's nice to see that, you know, that integrated work and the youth involvement in our community and how much is appreciated. Also joined you in getting a second shot while we were waiting in line. I thought it might be kind of interesting to ask people if masks become voluntary in July, how many people would still be wearing them? 80% said they would still wear them. And I thought, well, is that just the demographic I'm hanging out with here, or what is it? And so I've done that test question, and it's remarkable how many people still see it and the value of the health benefits. And it would be a very interesting thing to look at the cost analysis of what would happen is if when people called in sick, if they were actually paid to stay home sick, because what does that do for the savings in the rest of the organization? So there's been lots of sort of different employers have said we didn't get sick, our staff didn't get sick. For example, in SD 73, we hired 14 custodians last year. Those efforts, the savings in sick time for staff has allowed us to keep it on for next year. How's that? So, you know, again, just a positive coming out of a terrible situation. So I just share that. So it seems that our committee or our community is keen on what we've learned and moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you for your report. Councillor Taylor. Yeah, no problem.
So we had the Trails Task Force on June 8th. And I think we have a recommendation coming up later. We mostly talked getting updates on kind of grants and projects that are coming up fast. And as always, big agenda. I also got my second vaccination. Again, just kind of want to thank the volunteers and staff, obviously, for you know, making the facilities available for that. And great to see it was lineups every day. So great to see how popular that was. Also great to see the 215 teddy bears on the fence at the tennis courts, and also kind of want to make a shout out to coming up for June 21st on Monday, which is National Indigenous Peoples Day. There's going to be a drumming session for anybody who wants to go and take some time to acknowledge those 215 children. It's on the 21st at 6:30, the Monday at the tennis courts at 6:30 is the drumming session. And that's my report.
Thank you. 6:30, 21st tennis courts. Good to note. Just going back and looking at a few notes here that I think 9B, technically the corporate annual report, we're supposed to do a motion to receive. Okay, so can somebody make the motion to receive the council receive the 2020 corporate annual report as presented? So moved, seconded by Councillor Mackenzie. All those in favor? Just housekeeping from things I missed in my handwritten notes on here. Between Ms. Cruz writing and my writing, we could both be really good doctors. She could be a much better doctor than me because people can actually read what she wrote. It gets a little bit messy in there. Moving on to Committee of the Whole minutes. There is a minutes of the Infrastructure Committee whole. Councillor Sim, there's a recommendation there.
We have a few.
Well, we got one right away for the minutes.
That the minutes of the infrastructure, that costs
13A.
one.
13A.
That the minutes of the infrastructure committee of the whole meeting held June 1st we received.
Seconded. Somebody, anybody, all those in favor? She moved, yeah, right, sorry, Councillor Mackenzie seconded, all those in favor. There we go. It's like 3 years into this and still making the same mistakes. Anyways, Committee of the Whole reports, Economic Development, Councillor Frizzle.
The next meeting is July 13th.
Thank you. And item 14B, Councillor Sim, a
Uh,
slew of recommendations.
Yes, first noting that the next meeting is August 17th. So yes, a whole slew. So the first recommendation that council directs staff to engage True Consulting to move forward with the detailed design, procurement and construction of the Cell 1 Phase 2 project in accordance with the preliminary information provided to date.
Seconder, Councillor Taylor, all those in favor? Passes.
The second recommendation, and I wonder if I need to read this or if I could pass it over to Councillor Mackenzie in lieu of Councillor Banford, just an acknowledgement of work. Can I do that?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Councillor Mackenzie.
So that's moved by Councillor Mackenzie, seconded by Councillor.
I'll second it in name and honor of Councillor Banford.
Yes.
So,
Lot of pain and misery.
Yes.
And work and listening to citizens on that one by both of you. Thank you. All those in favor? And that yay passes.
moving on.
Third recommendation.
Next one, third recommendation, that staff be directed to revisit the concept of pursuing a development plan for Robson Street once the Trans Mountain expansion project is complete, whereby consideration be given as a traffic calming measure to designate Robson Street for local only traffic. So of course, this is just a concept, and I'd obviously had some input in that, but this is a step forward to that. So
Seconded by Councillor Mackenzie. Just a comment on that. I've had discussions, the possibility this is, we're talking about a multi-million-dollar project with all the things that need to be done in Robson Street. So if out in the public, people ask, why is it still rough? Tell them that once we're complete with Trans Mountain, et cetera, the pipes in the ground will have to be replaced before the paving can be done, et cetera. So there's no point in doing this. We've been doing it 3 or 4 times now. All those in favor anyways on the motion. Thank you. On the recommendation. Thank you. And
the next one, that the staff be directed to take the next step to identifying, for the purpose of grant opportunities, the construction of a sanitary collection system throughout Strawberry Flats in the updated infrastructure master plan taking place in 2021.
seconder. Seconded by Councillor Frizzle. All those in favor? Okay.
Last one, that staff be directed to move forward with engaging an electrical engineer, qualified industrial electrician to complete an assessment of options as follows. Location, sites best suited, costs associated with retrofitting district utilities for the purposes of hooking up a stationary or mobile generator, type standalone versus mobile and size of generator, options for supply of generator either by a contract or direct purchasing, and that a staff report be brought back to council for consideration. Comments on this, just for anybody who's listening, is that council has identified that moving forward with looking for a generator of sorts to support our infrastructure is important, and it's been identified as a priority, and having this report will help us make some good quality decisions.
Seconder. Seconded by Councillor Mackenzie. All those in favor? Yeah, looking at some of the drought issues in the Okanagan and the heat wave issues in the south, I think the sooner that we get this completed, the better, I think. Councillor Mackenzie, Parks and Rec. Yep. Okay. Yes.
Should I take that from the top?
If you'd like to for the recording, if you've got your notes handy and you can kind of just bomb through that again, just do it again. For
Okay, yep, we're
Parks and Rec meeting earlier today.
Parks and Rec earlier today. We're looking in for options and consideration for dog park. But of course, we should probably do a parks master plan. So we're looking into starting that for 2022 before we proceed with the dog park. Touch Lake boat launch parking. we must cross that river before we get too far ahead. So that's a must. Looking into some signage for getting at least a temporary fix for 2021 set up. And we will cross that bridge here come 2022. User reports for Kapuscinski Park, slow pitch and minor ball. Thanks, Mr. Mayor, for that. And also an update on our 2021 hockey school. Numbers are looking pretty good for a couple months out from that. So yeah, that concludes my Parks and Rec.
Yes, lots of enthusiasm for the discussion of what's going on at the Dutch Lake Boat Launch in the public. Thank you for that report. Yes, very busy department, Parks and Rec this time of year. Councillor Taylor, Finance and Audit.
The next meeting is December 7th.
Thank you. Moving on to standing committee reports, Councillor Herring had to step out for an appointment. There was a recommendation that minutes of the Joint Services Committee meeting held on March 8th, 2021 be received. Can I get a seconder on that? Councillor Frizzle, all those in favor? And that passes. Thank you. That's right, I can't. So it was firsted by Councillor Frizzle. I kind of went through that in my head, seconded by Councillor Taylor. All those in favor? Moved, firsted. What the heck? Yeah. Anyways, it's a good thing I'm blind. And moving on to Trails Task Force Committee, Councillor Taylor.
Our next meeting is July 13th. And there's a recommendation that the minutes of the Trails Task Force Committee held March 9th, 2021 be received.
Can I get a seconder, not a firster on that? Seconded by Councillor Mackenzie. All those in favor, and great work by that group. There's more coming up, I see. Junior Council, Councillor Frizzle.
Next meeting's in the fall.
Councillor Banford is also away today. Forestry Working Group. Next meeting is tentatively set for July 13th. Economic Development Task Force, Councillor Frizzle.
Next meeting is tomorrow night, actually, June 16th.
Meeting with Brian Fair, the owner of all the previous Canfor lands. Committee representation reports. Tourism Wells Gray, Councillor Sim. Yes, the minutes are attached. How about that? And then, sorry, I'm a little bit lost here. Okay, committee, so that's Tourism Wells Gray. That goes to staff report. Yeah, sorry. So the Wells Gray Community Forest Commission, I don't think did we even have a meeting? I can't remember. Anyways, we haven't had a meeting yet. So there's a recommendation to receive the minutes. Did we move that and second that? I don't think we did. Okay, somebody put up your hands and somebody else do your thing. So seconded by Councillor Mackenzie, moved by Councillor Sim. All those in favor? Oh my God. And now moving on to item 17A. There is a staff report on the Municipal Regional District Tax Tourism Wells Gray Association, and the world's longest recommendation for anything, but I'll let Ms. Grew speak to this for a half second, so that you're all up to speed on this while I get to my.
Yeah, so essentially, it's time coming November 1st to have the approval to start collecting the MRDT again for a new 5-year term. So for the background, Tourism Wells Gray was established in 2008 with a mandate to develop a strong year-round sustainable tourism industry within an internationally recognized destination that benefits the entire community and is led by committed industry stakeholders working in effective partnerships. So there is a constitution and bylaws. They are society. So since that time, Tourism Wells Gray has worked to develop and support tourism products and lead in that sector for Clearwater and Area A. From inception to 2011, Tourism Wells Gray was funded solely through the District of Clearwater and TNRD. And then in 2011, through the support of the District of Clearwater and the TNRD, Tourism Wells Gray applied for the additional hotel room tax, known as the MRDT. And And then in November 2011 and again 2016, they were the successful designated eligible entity to collect that tax. Their term is up for the 5 years, October 31st, 2021. The Joint Services Committee held a special meeting on May 17th, and Ms. Molina, the executive director, provided a report to the committee on the MRDT and sort of what's been happening with Tourism Wellsgrey this past in 2020. And then further to this, the district received a letter dated June 2nd after the board meeting of the Tourism Wellsgrey on June 2nd, which is attached for your reference regarding a request to support Tourism Wellsgrey to be designated as, again, the eligible entity for the MRDT. They're going to only collect 2% for the 5-year period. They could go to 3, but the accommodators and I believe the board agreed that the 2% was still more desirable. So then in the past, the District of Clearwater and Area A engaged in a tourism service agreement tied to deliverables to be give Tourism Wellsgrey the support to apply for this. In the past, the deliverables included items such as funding towards sports coordinator, which right now we don't have, agreeing to work with the district to annually host a destination tourism event and to continue to promote Clearwater and Wellsgrey country. At this time, it is understood that the Thompson-Nicola Regional District will likewise support the tourism Wellsgrey as an applicant for the MRDT. I believe their meeting is next week or this Thursday. This Thursday? Okay. Under strategic priorities, the newly adopted Community Economic Development Strategic Plan from the District of Clearwater identifies tourism and recreation development in provincial parks as a key focus. And then under the tourism section of the Simon Fraser University Economic Development Assessment recommends, I've put 3 points there that are highly linked to tourism activities. And further, the financial implications are, if the recommendation, in the recommendation, it's outlined that this report supports the financial implications are a collection of an estimated 700,000 in MRDT over the next 5 years. And in the previous 7 years, on a page, I can't give you the page number, but under the tourism statistics that I've attached to this report, they collected 799,000 in MRDT. So that's obviously what's supporting that organization and keeping them doing the good work they do. There's also a strategic plan that's attached, which is a requirement of the MRDT application. And there is a recommendation before you that I'm not going to read because it's reasonably lengthy.
Yeah.
So there's one recommendation, and then there's a second one to re-sign an agreement between the district, Tourism Wellsgrey and Thompson-Nicola Regional District, if this is approved, and to be signed by the mayor and the chief executive administrative officer.
So recommendation 1 that I don't desire to read either. What is the wish of councillor? Or sorry, questions of staff first would be.
I wouldn't mind just making some comments on that committee.
Yeah, that's go right ahead if you within safe reason.
So I think that this is probably a good move. It definitely provides some stability. And I was really glad that in here we've got a sports/events coordinator. So I think that that's important. Some of the members outside of Clearwater, they felt that they would appreciate some events because they don't always get the benefits of that sport focus. So however that rolls out. I think moving forward, you know, as we tie it into the economic development and as certainly as the community and as we just saw in the annual report, tourism can also include a focus on our businesses too. So, and just keep just ask council that you just keep an eye out on how the promotion continues to roll out, and that there's a number of key properties in Clearwater, and what are we missing or what could we promote better? So for example, in Osoyoos, you can't go to Osoyoos unless you go to the Home Hardware there because it is the most popular home hardware in all of Canada. It's like a candy store for adults. It's just so incredible. And I'm hoping that as we move forward with this agreement, that the lens becomes a bit wider. And that will be a community vision. And I think that if council's got some observations on that, that it's really important that we do that. We do have Wellsbury Park in our backyard, but we now have an incredible trail network that could be promoted all on its own. There's lots of different opportunities. And I think if we've learned anything from COVID is that we don't repeat the same old, same old. So I'm certainly in favor of this, but I do see that the next chapter of this will need to have lots of different voices contributing.
Thank you for comments. Any further questions or comments? No, I think most of the businesses in town that now we've gone a year without regular tourism, especially the European and the high value spenders from out of province, have really noticed how much trickle down there is into everything with those borders closed and those taps, those airlines not flying. So excellent points on that. And always been a fan of the concept of promoting Clearwater Wellsbury versus Wellsbury Country. Branding exercise, Clearwater is such a sellable name image versus
That
just
actually was
Wellsbury.
discussed as part of the strategic plan, is that comment was made that maybe it's not the Canada you imagined anymore. And perhaps it is time to revitalize the focus on Clearwater. And they because I'm new to it, they did say that the strategic plan is fluid, so that would be something that could be looked at. So it was certainly made note of.
There's some fluid I'd like to see flow. Anyways. Recommendation 1, what is the wish of council without me reading out this bloody great recommendation? So this is moved by Councillor Sim, moved by Councillor Taylor. Further discussion? Any thoughts? No. Okay. All those in favor? And that passes. Moving on to the very short recommendation 2, the tourism service agreement between the District of Clearwater, Tourism Wellsbury Associated, and the Thompson Nicola Regional District be approved and executed by Mayor Blackwell and the Chief Administrative Officer. Mover and a seconder, or moved by Councillor Taylor, seconded by Councillor Frizzle. All those in favor, and that passes. When the staff report's been done, you have the CAO report, which is another short multi-page novella, we'll call it. Any questions of Ms. Brew on the staff report? Once again, lots going on there. Yeah, I would do that. And you know, there's the kind of comedies that you laugh at, and there's the kind of comedies that you cringe and you're uncomfortable. And I don't know which comedy we're going to be for that first council meeting post Ms. Groove, but it's going to be one of the two. Yeah, there we go. We don't need to make a recommendation to accept that. Moving on to the Sophie financial statement of financial information. Shepherd, I believe that is going to.
Thank you, Mayor Blackwell. This is a requirement in the community charter to present the SOFI, the Statement of Financial Information, to council by the end of June each year. It will be available on the website, as are all the previous SOFI reports. And it's also available at the front desk if anyone needs a copy of it.
Questions, comments? Let you all have a moment to have a look at it. We've all seen this before. So BDO, another clean audits. My comments, if nobody else has got one right away, is we just made it through one of the most harrowing years in anybody's municipality, and the second year of potential chaos with taxes, with people losing their jobs with the mills, with all the things going on in the world. And we are so incredibly well financially managed. I think we need another small round of applause as well for the job over in that corner, because wow. I believe that Ms. Shepherd and Ms. Grew went for a road trip last week and went to a couple other communities where changes are happening because, there's been impacts to this. I think we've come out of this incredibly well. It's our management team that is to be thanked for that. So this is not all to do with, the Sophie report is not all to do with that, but what's in the Sophie report, it definitely is. So thank you for that. So there's a recommendation. What's the wishes of council? Move the recommendation, seconded by Councillor Taylor. Thank you. All those in favor? That is passed. Moving on to contract award. This is exciting. Item D. Not that finance isn't exciting, but this is exciting. So, Ms.
It
Green,
all
what is?
links to finance. Everything.
Yeah, it is. I mean, you know, we're only here on a lot of these things because we are so well managed. I mean, that it keeps coming back to that, right? So anyways, Ms. Grew, tell this wonderful news for the community.
So you have before you a staff report on awarding a contract for the Park Drive Raft River Multi-Use Path. For our enterprise, I'll just quickly go over the executive summary. So the district has a Trails Master Plan that you did adopt in 2016. You do have a Trails Task Force Committee who works to prioritize safe connecting trails within the district. Part of their role to date has been to apply for grants, funding to complete construction on trail pathways identified in the master plan. Council did approve an application for funds under the Investing in Canada COVID-19 Resiliency Infrastructure Stream in January of this year for the design construction of Park Drive. Raft River Multi-Use Path. Under this grant stream, the project is required to be complete by December 31st, 2021, so it's very aggressive. Therefore, in order to be prepared, the committee utilized funds from the Wellsbury Community Forest Commission, which I'd like to recommend or recognize Heather McLennan for being forward thinking to go to the community forest for this and initiated the preliminary design drawings and advertised and negotiated request for proposal for the works in order to be prepared to take action upon notification of the grant funding. The funding announcement is expected any day, any hour. The project was tendered on BC Bid. There were 2 bid packages pulled, with one received for a bid of 981,000. Whoops. Including taxes. The construction drawings are 50% complete at this point, and the NRFP process allows for negotiations on final design and works. This means that the bid price may change slightly, plus or minus, but will stay within the budgeted allocation. The bid received is well within the grant funds applied for and leaves room to negotiate. For the project deliverables for Park Drive paved multi-use path, it's to construct 1,900 square meters of asphalt pathway, be 3 meter wide, 50 millimeter thickness. Base gravels, construct 120 meter square of block retaining wall, remove and dispose of 1,250 cube per square meters of asphalt, 1,450 square meters of asphalt restoration, including base gravels to construct concrete meridian curb to construct a meridian infill. This is to do with the realignment of Clearwater Village Road. There are 7 dry wells, there's 7 drainage catch basins, there's cleaning and reshaping ditches, and then some PVC stormwater piping. Also to install signage and pavement marking along from Myrtle Road down to Weber Road, and from the Clearwater stop to the well 3 here, or Dutch Lake Road. One submission was received. It closed on May the 27th. There's no concerns with the proponent ability to complete the works. There's a memo on the back of the report from True Consulting who analyzed the bids and went through the pricing and made sure that it all made sense. It is council's strategic priority to capitalize on outdoor recreation resources to provide active living opportunities and then to support active transportation initiatives, particularly pedestrian facilities to support health and well-being. We did have support letter from Símpcwemc First Nations, Ministry of Transportation, Interior Health, the Area A and Tourism Wellsbury. Financial impact is True has done their design and posting of the request for proposal. The bid is 981,494.92. The grant that we have is 1.3, or that we're hoping for 1.356735 million. This would also include engineering and contingency. It'll be a bid in public consultation over and above the regular who needs to know. Obviously, the neighborhood, each private property owner will be notified that we'll be working beside their property. school district because it goes right into the school district, and we're actually taking the pathway in between the old school board building and Rafter School, and that was actually a request of the principal and another staff member at the public open house meeting, instead of taking it just into the parking lot. Yeah, and then there'll be designated parking, so there will be the trail, a ditch, and then designated parking painted along Clearwater Village Road. You'll be stopping on Clearwater Village Road, so that'll be a big change for the community. And Park Drive will be a through road. Sorry? Oh, Peter Trush. Yeah, we will. Yeah. Yeah, he would be actually. Yeah.
Okay,
So there is
questions?
a recommendation to award the
Recommendation.
contract, sorry, to Oro Enterprises in the amount of 981,494.92, contingent upon approval of the project funding under the Investing in Canada COVID Resiliency Infrastructure Stream, and that the mayor and chief administrative officer be authorized to execute the appropriate documents.
Any questions of staff on this before I ask for a mover and a seconder? Mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Taylor, seconded by Councillor Frizzle. A lot of history with this area, especially the paths around Rob River. All those in favor? Fantastic. That passes. Oh, sorry, I got to get on mic again here because I forgot to put my mic on. What the heck? So moving on to correspondence, there's notice on pages on the last page of the report, stuff from Longfellows.
I can comment on this if you'd like.
Yeah, thank
So-
you. Because
So we did get the referral, we looked into it, so just the one lot, 3862 that's within the district boundary. It's zoned RL1, rural, under zoning bylaw 133, which allows for timber processing and silviculture use. It's also designated in the OCP as managed community forest and woodlots, which is consistent with the woodlot plan on this parcel. That's it, so it's good to go.
So we just accept the letter. We don't actually have anything that we're
That's right.
required to comment on that. I'd love to tell you what page that's on. Mine, it's on 270 of mine. The next something or rather 228. Okay, 228. The next one is BC Hydro. Do we wish to meet with BC Hydro? I think the mine process in the past, it's been about power shortages and that sort of thing, but we're not really there at this point in history, and we really haven't heard anything from people like Taseko or any other customers that may come back to us. It would be a good thing to point out with Mr. Fair. If we need to. So we can always ask for anything when it comes to UBCM. So it just, they're asking now, the invitation's out there. When they put out the invitation, it's always a good time. But yes, Wednesday, June 30th, so we still do have time if something comes up, something sparks. Yeah, for sure. So City of Prince George, UBCM resolutions, capacity of National Forensic Lab Services, improved efficiencies in the prosecution of criminal offenses, comprehensive training model for our CMP, increased capacity in provincial court systems through alternative coordinated initiatives. Are there any of those that maybe we want to write a letter of support on?
No.
Yeah, I think they're in Prince George, put it forward. UBCM, you get to vote for them.
There's something to say no to, given what we're going through the next couple of weeks. This is it.
Yep, sold. Yeah, in your last year of council, if you wanted to start putting some of these things forward at the next UBCM, great time to do some advocacy now that let's knock on wood about weathering the storm. John Foster Place. There is basically a petition. 5 6.
If you wished.
Yeah, go right ahead, speak to it.
So the residents have asked for a couple of power poles, street lighting. Correct me, sorry about that. I did call a couple of BC Hydro folks. And so the process would be that it would go through the SLIM program. So a submission would go into SLIM. If the power poles already exist on right of way that they could use, then they would install the lighting on the existing power poles. However, if they don't, and at that point, the council wouldn't pay anything other than your annual rental that you pay already on other streetlights. If they require a transformer and power poles, council would pay for the transformer power poles and then your annual rent. So I think what you might want to do is ask staff to look into the actual costs of doing so, because I think they definitely have a really good reasoning why they want street lighting.
I move to direct staff to look into the cost and bring it back to another council meeting.
Thank you. Anybody else wants? There you go. So now it's moving forward with staff and it's in process. All those in favor? Good, thank you. That should hopefully satisfy the residents for now on. Moving forward, correspondence information items. Thompson Nicola Regional District Building Inspection Services for May, as Ms. Bruce stated, more has happened probably in that time. Civil Resolution Tribunal information for motor vehicle accident disputes. It kind of sounds like a lawyer's ICBC protest there in that one. District of Saanich Climate Action Revenue Incentive Program. We were affected by that. Item D, letter for Minister Conroy, modernizing forestry policy. Langley City, letter of support for 988 suicide crisis line. I think. Well, there, we're leading. Interior Health, item F, Interior Health Smoke Planning for Local Government Partners, and Community Futures New Rural Recovery Coordinator. Is that the economic development position that?
No, that
No,
was
it's
the
a
one
different one.
that they put that out, and I think the Economic Development Committee looked at it.
Okay. Right. Okay. So we do have a notice of motion. Housing Needs Working Group tabled and brought forward from June 1st. There's a recommendation there. Do we want to keep pushing this one forward? Because,
I had thought,
yeah,
is that it seems to me that the recruitment committee is kind of looking at that. Seems to me we've just announced a housing project. And it may be something that we have very similar to when the recruitment committee first started. It's maybe just one meeting of interested people, and so that there's actually a community sharing of ideas now that COVID is over. I know that like Yellowhead Community Services is looking for a daycare. There's going to be some different plans coming in, and we just haven't had a community roundtable. So maybe we could look at that for September and see what filters out after that.
yeah. So let's just push it back till September as far as potentially planning a meeting, and we do have some interest from the economic task force related to the mill closure to sort of facilitate that. And so how about we just do that instead of this?
Things are starting, and but I think it's good to keep alive. So that's
Yeah, and noting that several of the regular committees and calls that I sit on have been suspended for
Mhm.
July and August. September works really well with just pushing that off towards the last doctor call. They were able to resolve some of their housing issues at least in a temporary way through accessing other resources that had housing available. So there has been some help there anyways. It may not be permanent, but it's there. So we're just not going to do anything with that. Just leave it there. No need to move or.
do we need to table it? That we move it to this, table it to the middle of September.
We just have to table. We don't actually have to.
Oh.
Do we table it?
I was just following Ms. Frizzle.
I don't. Yeah, but do you have to actually procedurally move to table it, or you just? So we got to move it.
Okay, how about this? I move that we don't create a task force. Well, because my intent, just to let you know, is I want to keep, I see the value in keeping it alive. I think there's other ways of doing it, and to have a community meeting, not moving forward with the formal committee. So why don't I make the motion to move it, somebody second it, and we vote it down? Oh, sorry. No, I don't. You shining like a star. So moved. How are you doing with that, Michael? You okay? Okay, great.
Moving on to other business, recommendation that John Thomas be appointed as the District of Clearwater's corporate officer, and that as of June 28th, John Thomas be designated with signing authority for the district, for district business, and that Leslie Grew be removed from the signing authority.
So moved. I will pull the Band-Aid off.
Seconded by Councillor Frizzle. It's real, people. All those in favor. Nobody's in favor, but putting your hands up anyway. Yeah, just everybody hold your hands down.
That said, like all great things, sometimes goodbyes are for hellos. Yeah, and we've got a great second choice coming in. New choice, new
Next phase.
next phase, and we're excited about it, given that we're being recorded. We're delighted.
And I get to work with Ms. Brew on the Charles Task Force.
Yes, you do. There you
That's
go.
it. Comments from the public. Are there, if you have any questions, you can either come online or type it into the chat box. I'll give it a minute or two. Everybody take a sip of water, do their thing, and then we have to move into a camera.
I don't have any questions. It's Stephanie, if you can't recognize my voice. However, Leslie, it's been a pleasure. Lovely speaking with you and dealing with you. And I'm sure I'll see you around, but just want to say good luck and everything.
Thank you very much. I've
You're
enjoyed working
welcome.
with you as well.
Okay, so motion has a recommendation to move it into camera, that the meeting be closed to the public pursuant to sections 91C of the community charter to discuss matters related to labor relations and other employee relations. And I get a mover and a seconder on that. Moved by Councillor McKenzie, seconded by Councillor Frizzle. We'll take a about 8-9 minute break, and